the the question is, where do all these words come from? As far as our lecture is concerned, we will be discussing the processes that led to the formation of a large number of words in English. But before we go into details of these processes, we need to know that there is another source for the large number of words in English, which is borrowing. Throughout history, English, like any natural language, has borrowed from many words from other languages. But let's look at some examples because it's impossible to have the whole list in this lecture. But just to show that this is very natural, in every natural language, we expect words which are borrowed from other languages. For instance, in English, chauffeur is borrowed from French, campus from Latin, sheikh from Arabic, bazaar from Persian, sheikh from Japanese, etc. This is not our main concern, in fact, but just to have an idea that this is one way of increasing the number of words in any natural language. The other is the processes which we are going to talk about today. There are 10 processes, in fact, which led to the large number of words in English. We are going to discuss only 6 in this lecture, and then we'll continue with the other lecture with the other 4. The first process is called compounding. Compounding, the word suggests the name. It simply means to combine 2 or more words into single words. They are written either as one word, as in cornflakes, cutoff, breakfast, etc., or sometimes they are hyphenated, as in long-haired, or it could be treated as 2 words, as in high school. And this is in fact which we talked about already when we talked about types of words in English. Compound word, this is one type. The other way is called derivation. This is also related to what we have talked about, the formation of words by the addition of affixes, either prefixes, infixes, or suffixes. So derivation means to form new words by combining derivational suffixes or bound bases with the existing words. How can we understand the meaning of this? One can understand the meaning of the whole words by depending on the meaning of the existing words. For instance, advice, I know. When I say disadvice, I know the meaning of advice. Therefore, this, I know the meaning, which is the opposite. Re-ask, you remember this is repetition of something. This is an example of prefix, could be a suffix, like in case of kingdom. It could be bound bases, and this is an example of a complex a complex word. You remember we said they consist of 2 bound bases, or 1 free and 1 bound, as in tail play, ecosystem, aquarium, etc. The third process is called invention. With the first 2, they are addition to the existing words, while this one, the words are totally new. They are invented for the first time. They are created for the first time. As an example is nylon, Kodak, blurb, etc. The fourth one, ecosm. It means to form words whose their sounds suggest the meaning. And you already have this in poetry with the onomatopoeic words, where the sound suggests the meaning. For instance, you say meow of a cow, and hiss, and clank of bell, or roar of water, or clink of glasses, and barking of dogs, etc. So the meaning comes from the sound. To practice these 4 types, you can work on exercise 10.1 with lots of examples, and I recommend that you work on the whole exercise from the beginning to the end. Because remember, when we were in a classroom, we used to work on only some samples because we didn't have time. Now you do have time, you are at home, so the more practice you have, the better for you. It's the only way to let the subject stick in your mind is by practicing it through exercises. Because you are not supposed to memorize things, but you are supposed to put it in practice. So whatever you understand from this should be put into practice, so you can work on them. You can recognize them. And you remember we talked about the 2 ways of examining your understanding of the material. It's recognizing or producing or producing. Yeah. So you know how to produce words and you know how to recognize them. when they are in context or are even out of context. Yeah. So the fifth one is called a clipping. Clipping means cutting. So what do we cut? We cut either the beginning of the word or the end of the word, sometimes both of them, and the remaining part will stand for the whole word. This is very familiar to you and you use them in everyday language, but maybe you don't know the origin of these, yeah? Nobody says examination. Most of us, we say exam, gym, math, lab, vocab. I mean, these are all clipped words. The end of the word has already been clipped. Other examples where the first part of it has been clipped, as in a plane, from airplane, phone, van, etc. Or, as we said, the beginning and the end, and we are left with the part in the middle, just in case of a flu, from influenza, or fridge in case of refrigerator. So we clip the beginning and the end. We are left with the only one part, one segment to stand for the whole thing. The clipping might not only with single words. Sometimes we clip grammatical structures, and now you have an idea what we mean by grammatical structures. You remember when we talked about White House and white modern house. This is called the grammatical structure, where you can easily insert between the two. We can also put them together and then we clip them, as in Amerindian, in case the clipping of American Indian, or ComSat for communication satellite. So this is also another type of clipping. So either beginning or end or in the middle. The last one for today is acronymy. And this is also, you are familiar with this too. When we use abbreviations, abbreviations come from the initials. By initials, I mean the first letter of a succession of words. You either pronounce the initials as MP, as initials, member of the parliament, for instance, or VIP for very important people or person, or you pronounce it like a word, as in NATO or UNESCO, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. This is the abbreviation for it, and this is the acronymic word for it, or radar for radio detecting and ranging. Okay, so this is enough for today. We are going to continue with the other lecture with the other 4 processes, but please, as I said, try to work on exercises. And this is the reason why I insist on exercises, is to avoid copying, because what you really did in the first assignment, you copied all material from the book or from each other. What I really wanted you to do is to read it and try to understand and give the gist. And remember what we mean by the gist. قلنا احنا لزبدة الموضوع in your own words. Even if you make some grammatical mistakes, no problem. Better than copying the whole thing and everything is right because it is not your writing. And this is what I talked about, changing from التعليم إلى التعلم. التعليم هو عبارة عن تلقين، يعني احنا نلقن لكم المادة وترجعون إياها أو ترجعوها من الكتاب. هذا من احنا نكون موجودين قريبين. But when we are far from each other as we are in the situation now, I think you have to depend on yourself completely, and we support you with this kind of material, with the new technology. But it all depends on you. What I really want you to do is to read to read with concentration, to read not only for the sake of reading, but for the sake of understanding. Try to understand, try to go to the exercises, check your understanding by working on exercises, check how many of them are right and wrong by checking at the back of the book the right answers. Don't copy the right answers, but to try yourself. I mean, this is really very important for you, especially with 3rd and 4th year students. Remember, we mentioned that 60% is your responsibility and the 40% is our responsibility. So it means you are understanding the 60, we will add to it by this kind of technology, using this kind of audio material recorded to you, just to look at the book, look at the PDF I sent, look at the material given in here, and try to listen to my explanation, and both will help you. I don't think anything is really that difficult. It's not a big deal. The whole topic is really not that completely new to you. You are familiar to all. Okay, I wish you the best of luck, and then we try next time the other 4. Thank you very much for listening.